Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/ProRevenge, where in today's episode, OP tells a tale where they single-handedly destroyed a chain of gas stations because the bosses were so corrupt and too greedy. Guys, buckle up. The stories in this one are super duper satisfying, and I hope you enjoy them. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and as always, story submissions can be sent to this email right here. So my ex-neighbor was pretty trashy. She always had cars sitting on blocks in the yard, smoked while 9 months pregnant, and always blasted Kid Rock tunes at all times of the day. She was that trashy. Well, this lady decided that paying $1 per trash bag was just too much. Our township will only pick up your trash if it's in one of the approved purple bags, so normal trash bags will just be left behind. The trash truck drives right past them. So her solution was to buy normal trash bags at the dollar store and have her 8-year-old child toss them over the fence into my yard. Now their trash becomes my problem. So after confronting her, she just laughed at me, so I called the cops. They said that since the kid was so young, there was no proof that his parents told him to do it, so there was nothing they could do. So this went on for about 4 months, me taking the bags of trash they toss into my yard, wrapping them in purple bags that I paid out of pocket for, and putting them out to the curb. That was pretty annoying, not to mention the extra money I'm spending on trash bags. I'm slowly growing to hate this woman. It was annoying at first, but at this point, I was getting mad. Mind you, I own my own home and she was renting hers. Now at the time, buying a rental property was an idea for us, so we decided, why not? Let's reach out to her landlord. So I get a hold of the landlord and I offer to buy the house for a decent amount above market value. The guy jumps at the offer, and soon I'm the new proud owner of the house next door to me. Sure, it cost me $71,000, but what price do you put on peace of mind? The very first thing I did as the new owner was serve them an eviction notice, in person, across that same fence that they threw their trash over. That was 31 days ago. As of today, the unit is empty, and I don't know where they went, but they're someone else's problem now. All because she didn't want to pay for her own trash bags. Oh, the things people can do with money, right guys? Oh, I don't like you as a neighbor, I'll just buy the house you're renting and evict you. Now mind you, it might have been a totally different story if OP lived somewhere where houses weren't $75,000. Like, it'd be kind of hard to buy the house next to you if it was like, 5 times that much. In which case, OP might have been stuck beside that nightmare neighbor. So some background. I'm a 35-year-old male who owns a 72-unit apartment complex. When I bought it, it was in good shape, and I spent several million getting all the apartments renovated. The rent wasn't increased for any of the tenants, and I made sure it never went up by more than $50 a year for the lease renewals. Shortly after all the renovations were completed, I started the search for a property management company, and ultimately settled on one that seemed well aligned with wanting to put the tenants first. As we were doing the contracts, I had my real estate friend look at them. Between him and my lawyer, they recommended having a clause added in there. So the short of it is, if there's any legal actions brought up against me for the apartment complex due to the neglect of property management staff, that the property management will be responsible for all those costs and any legal fees incurred. Now, I do want to note that this wasn't added in secret, and the legal team from the property management company agreed, and everything was finalized. They took over the management of the complex a month later. I was fairly hands-off, and only visited the site every 3 to 4 months. Other than that, I'd have monthly updates sent to me by the manager on site. A few months ago, I found out that a couple of the apartments had been left in severe shambles after the tenants moved out, and the cleaning crew we had took care of it. I didn't find out until after the fact that that wasn't completely accurate. I found out that one of the apartments apparently had a bad roach infestation in the storage closet outside the apartment. After the new tenants moved into that apartment, they brought up the issue to the site manager. In the monthly reporting, the site manager claimed that the maintenance staff tried to address it with traps and bug bombs. Now, I didn't think too much of it, and I left it at that. The next month, the same thing. And the third month, after receiving the monthly reports, I called the site manager, stating that there's a reoccurring issue that I wanted taken care of professionally at that point. The month's rent was waived for the tenants who lived in that particular apartment, and they were put up in a hotel for a week while the issue was to be addressed. Once they returned to their apartment is when the issue started. The site manager, either by mistake or by negligence, didn't communicate with the exterminators the extent or the location of the infestation. Instead of the storage closet, the apartment was fumigated. And after that, the roaches made their way into other apartments in the same building, and the nearest building, and the problem got so much worse. The same option was given to all the tenants affected in that building, waiving the month's rent and putting them up in a hotel for the week while the issue was addressed. They all took that offer up. However, one of the tenants decided to take legal action. While I wasn't happy about it, I did understand where they were coming from, having their lives disrupted by something that should have been addressed properly to start. So as we were amidst negotiating with them during mediations, my lawyer reminded me of the clause with the property management company and suggested we give them what they want. Now this is where I started my revenge. I had the rest of the tenants from the 2 impacted buildings be suggested to anonymously that one of the tenants had filed a lawsuit for the damage and that they should do the same by getting in on it. Through the mediation, I pretended to be outraged at the whole matter. The negotiation started at 3 months of free rent, but ultimately, we settled on 1 year of free rent for all those tenants affected. Overall, that came out to 16 apartments, with rent averaging from $1,700 monthly that the property management had to pay for due to the negligence of the site manager, equaling to roughly $325,000 in just the lost rent they had to pay for. And the cherry on top was due to the breach in service for the property maintenance, they also have to provide free services for up to 6 months, while I seek out a new property management company, costing them an additional $146,000. And they still have to pay for the legal fees on top of that. You know what, guys? I think OP might be one of the only good landlords that I've read about on Reddit. And this really goes to show that having a good lawyer that knows how to properly draft contracts and know their stuff will ultimately save you. Like, if I were OP, I'd be buying that man a year's supply of beer, or cake, or whatever he wants, because without that clause being in there, I couldn't imagine. I really couldn't. Okay, so I worked for a company for just under 5 years. The company I worked for existed for 10 years prior to me. While I worked at this company, it ballooned to be the #1 provider in the region for its unique service, with about 75% of the market. The place I worked at was a small business with about 15 employees. Now, I loved my job, and the skills I learned while working there were quite valuable. I also loved my team and the clients we provided services for. My twice yearly reviews with the owner were always 10 out of 10, with no recommendations for improvement. I was exceptional at my job in every way. I handled company operations, HR, payroll, customer service, marketing, employee management, schedules, employee and client training, and many other things at this company. I was also able to step in and do any of my teammates' jobs if they were sick or out on vacation. The owner of the company was giving out a bonus late last summer, and mine, while being more than previous years, was notably less than my teammates. So I asked the owner, hey, are the bonuses related to performance? And if so, what could I have done to earn more? The owner replies, the bonuses are not performance related. You're just more replaceable than the others. I say to him, oh, okay. I then proceeded to process each of the bonuses and then went to lunch. I then called my spouse to gain wisdom and advice. I was pretty angry, but I didn't want to make a rash decision. Now, my spouse is very intelligent, and while they're not a fortune teller, they do have an ability to foresee various responses and all potential outcomes. They're business-wise, and have been on the executive team of a large company for the past 21 years, while also serving on several community boards and business advisory boards. We decided together to continue forward with our scheduled vacation, and use the time away to calm our minds, relax, have fun, and to also determine the best course of action for me. We were leaving after working one more day, so I worked like all was normal the rest of the day, and the following day I left on vacation. While away, we discussed several scenarios, the possible outcomes, consulted with a business advisor and a business attorney. With all the advice I received, I determined that upon my return from vacation, that I would resign from my role with a 2-week notice. However, as soon as I told him about my resignation, in a fit of rage, I was immediately terminated by the owner, which was one of the scenarios we thought would happen, so I was prepared for the owner's poor reaction. During the next couple of weeks, I created and opened a competing business, offering similar services. However, I offered more customizable options with a higher quality service and results. I knew our clients wanted these options and had proposed the said options several times at my old workplace, but it was never green-lighted to implement the changes. The reason being was that the owner didn't come up with the idea, so it was a stupid idea. I also maintained communications with a few people from my old team. My old team didn't relay the day-to-day happenings at my previous workplace, and I never asked about the company. However, they would vent to me on occasion, and I would listen without comment. I knew that service, quality, and the work environment in general suffered since my departure. Morale went down and clients were less satisfied. I also read the Google and Facebook reviews for the old company, and yikes. Additionally, 2 full-time and 1 part-time person was hired to fill my role, and a portion of my responsibilities like HR and payroll were filled by outside companies. I quickly built up my business and within 3 months was able to hire several of my old teammates. The quality of previous workplaces' offerings continued to fall, which sent additional businesses my way and quickly caused incoming work to be non-existent at the old workplace. My old workplace went from being the #1 provider of unique service in that region to nothing in a matter of months. My previous employer is now searching for gainful employment. I know this because over the weekend, the owner applied for a position at my spouse's company. I think my spouse's company should bring my previous employer in for an interview, but when they arrive, surprise, I'm the interviewer. And all I say is, how replaceable am I now? My spouse, rightfully so, has said no. So the moral of the story is don't tell your employees they're replaceable because they might create a competing business that's better than yours, while taking your best employees and your clients, which will leave you with no business to sell. As the owner's whole retirement plan was to sell his business, and now he has to start over by searching for employment under someone else. It looks like your company was replaceable, not me. Guys, I have no idea why owners never recognize the good employees until they leave. Like, I never get sick of reading these types of revenges. The post where OP quits and builds a competing business that ends up being his ex-company's downfall. Like, success is truly the ultimate revenge. And I also love how his boss says he's the most replaceable and then gets mad when OP quits. Like, if by most replaceable the owner meant the most amount of people it would take to replace OP if they quit, then yes, OP would be the most replaceable. I don't know. Okay, so on to the story. At one point in my life, I found myself bored. I needed spending cash, but at the same time, like any typical college student, I need a job that would work around my class hours. Enter C Corp. Not the real name. Now, C Corp was a locally owned chain of gas stations in the southeastern part of Georgia and parts of Florida. I forget the total number of stations, but it was under 50, if that matters. So I applied and was given a simple clerking position, where I would work weekends and 2 nights a week, for a total of about 32 hours a week on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. I worked there for about a year, when I was offered a position to help reopen a store with a promotion to assistant manager. My hours were obviously going to change, but at the same time, I gained better pay and a new night shift, which would help things out. To be quite honest, I even debated taking some time off from school to concentrate on the job, as it was entirely possible that I would be promoted to manager of my own store. There were veiled hints and suggestions of that very thing happening in a few months. I never got that far, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. It didn't take long for me to start noticing some issues with the store, and the company as a whole. Issues which I did my best to correct. We were nearing hunting season, turkey and deer. The store started getting in several pallets of ammunition. So now, we had to figure out how to display the various types of shotgun shells and rifle bullets, while also doing our best to ensure things didn't get in the way. It was around this time that I found myself speaking with the store manager, having been called on the carpet, so to speak, for refusing to sell ammunition to a customer. I explained to the manager that I had attempted to check ID on the customer who refused to give it. So I told the manager that I knew full well that this was illegal, and ID was required by state law. And furthermore, you had to be 18 to buy them. That started me on a path that would lead to my termination a few weeks later. I start noticing company memos popping up in the office, all that dealt with company practices regarding ammunition. One even went so far to say that it was a terminable offense to refuse the sale of shotgun shells to a customer, regardless of age. Now, this one actually vanished a few days after it went up, with me suspecting that someone in the legal department realized the trouble they could get into with it. However, the flow of ammunition did not stop. So a week before my termination, things got worse. The state in question has the lottery, of which the lion's share is scratch-off tickets. You know the type. Pay $1 scratch-off and hope you win something. Now, the lottery states on the back of every single ticket that the retailer who sold it must pay up to $599 in winnings. Anything above that has to be claimed at the central lottery office in the state's capital. Retailers are warned that should they refuse to pay this, they can be fined by the Lottery Commission, or worse. So imagine my surprise when I'm written up for following the Lottery Commission policy and paying out a $300 win to a customer. I was told point blank that company policy was not to pay out anything more than $100, regardless of what the Lottery Commission said. The final straw before my eventual termination came when training another cashier. The very next day, the count came up short by exactly $100. I refused to sign the write-up, which meant the company would have to investigate, or so I thought. The same day, the district manager called the store and made some veiled threats about calling police over this. And then he left me with a note that says, if the count comes up $100 over today, he won't say anything. Now at that, I'm thinking, oh hell no, he didn't. I waited till the manager returns from her meeting, dropped my keys on the counter, and told her directly, I'm done. I then walked out and didn't really look back. I was pissed. I was pissed at the treatment I'd been given over my time working there, pissed at being called a thief, pissed at what I knew the company was doing to my little community, and pissed as far as I could tell that they were getting away with it. So that's when I hatched a plan of revenge. First and foremost, I needed to talk with a friend, one of my college buddies, who also worked for the county sheriff's office. So I brought him over with some good barbecue and a few beers, and then asked him, hypothetically speaking, what would happen to a company if it was found they were doing something illegal, like selling ammunition when they shouldn't be, or not abiding by the Lotto Commission rules, or something like that. My friend knew that I'd recently left C Corp and the circumstances of why I left, so it didn't take him long to ask what was going on. So at that, I spilled the beans, even including the reported theft I'd been accused of. He was on the edge of his seat, even going as far as to note that the district manager's actions itself was illegal, and told me to come meet with my friend's boss the next day to give a statement. So I did just that. I laid out everything. I told him about the memo of not refusing the sales, which is against state law, and then gave detailed information about the district manager's call. Also, the incident itself and other things I'd witnessed regarding illegal practices by the company, though not mentioned here. It took 4 hours to get everything told and typed out. By the way the detective acted, I got the impression that I'd either given him one hell of a case to load or broken some case right open. Fun. However, I wasn't really done yet. I had one more call to make. The one that would prove pretty simple and short, and involve me calling the Lottery Commission and telling them about my company's policy, which went against the lottery agreement. I was assured they'd look into things and that my information would be kept anonymous. All I had to do was sit back and wait. So the fallout. 2 or 3 weeks later, the local paper ran a story on the front page, talking about a multiple department sting that happened in our area. The sting was investigating illegal sales of weapons, alcohol, and ammunitions to persons underage. In that raid, C Corp had been hit hard, with several of their stores being shut and several managers and district managers being arrested on various charges tied to this illegal activity. The company itself was facing severe fines from the state, well into 7 figures, and was being called into question whether or not they had proper licenses to even sell ammunition and firearms in the first place. The only mention about what the district manager said to me came in the form of one of the investigating officers, noting that the company had resorted to blackmail in an attempt to silence anyone who dared question the company's policies or practices. The stores did remain open, but you could tell that the managers were seriously nervous about what the future held. Sales of ammunition and guns stopped completely, and overnight. About a week after the raid by police, lottery tickets of all kinds simply vanished from the stores. Big signs out front simply read, "We do not sell lotto." The validation machines were gone and the scratch-off ticket areas lay empty. Lottery was not in the building. The fact that they lost their lottery sales would point to it being a very serious issue at the very least. That, or the Lottery Commission decided to distance themselves from the company, which was under federal investigation. Yes, the ammunition and guns thing went federal. Ultimately, the company was a shell of its former self. About half the gas stations ended up closing due to no longer being profitable, and what gas stations didn't close were turning over very little profit. The company eventually declared bankruptcy after a final scandal that brought them another round of state and federal fines. In that case, they were busted for price gouging after raising the gas price per gallon to about $6 a gallon in cities where they had no other competition. It's been close to 15 years since this all went down, and C Corp doesn't exist any longer. After declaring bankruptcy, most of the stores were sold off to a competitor, who ended up closing all but 5 or 6 of the stores due to redundancies. A whole host of honest, innocent people ended up out of work, simply because the store decided to screw over one guy who wanted to do the right thing by law and state policies. Several of corporate staff were given 2 to 3 year suspended sentences, while others ended up paying personal fines on top of what the company was facing. The company has become something of a warning to others about what not to do when an employee voices a concern. And above and beyond that, why it's a good idea to follow the letter of the law exactly as it's written, regardless if it hinders your bottom line or not. I sometimes think back on the whole affair and do wonder just what they hoped to achieve with that blackmail attempt. Some part of me thinks that the district manager honestly thought that it was the best option, and may have been trying to help out an employee he liked. That was something that always bugged me, but looking back, every interaction I had with the guy was a good one. Right up to him grooming me to be another store manager, so maybe he was trying to protect me. Then again, he could have just been the a-hole I assumed, and that was him showing his true colors. I guess we'll never know. The guy moved out of the area a few years later, and I sure as hell wasn't about to talk to him again. Not after everything that happened. Guys, the fallout of this revenge is truly epic, like holy cow. And I personally think that OP did the morally right thing, 100%. No question. But man, I can't help but to wonder what chain of gas station this was. 15 years ago, guys, a chain of gas stations in Florida and Georgia. Let me know what you guys think. I did try to Google it, but nothing came up. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /ProRevenge. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's super satisfying stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. And if you missed the last episode on this channel, a rich, entitled Karen harasses her rich landlord without knowing it's her landlord, and she loses her home. It's such a satisfying story. So go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.